Hello, and welcome back to part 4 of our video tutorial. At this point, you should hopefully have all of your individual pages for your different photos. You can see mine here. If we go to the editor, you can see all of the different ones that I have done. So here, I have a good 7 or so different photos loaded in. And now I'm going to work on my other pages to get my website finished. So if I go to my home page is called Work. You can see that my home page is not currently showing what I want it to show. It's still showing this old portfolio section, which we are not going to be using. Because this page is set up to use the portfolio, I cannot remove this section, unfortunately. You'll see here that as I right click on the item or on the section, it's not removable. So in this case, what I'm going to do is go to Pages and Menu, and I'm going to create a new page for my home page. If your home page doesn't have a portfolio section, and you can delete this section and make it blank, then that will work for you. But in my case, and I think many of your cases, we need to go and create a new blank page, which we're going to call, well, whatever we want our home page to be called. I'm okay with this page being work. I think that's fine. Done. Now I want to get rid of this other work page. So I'm going to delete it and delete WIX portfolio because I'm not using it. At this point, going back to the menu, it still shows the page. So I think now that WIX portfolio is gone, we should be able to remove it if it's not removed already. Okay, let's see what it says here. I definitely still have both pages showing up. I'm going to go and save and refresh the page just to see if that makes a difference. Because it may have deleted it, but the editor doesn't know that yet. Okay, it seems like that page is still here. Sometimes there are pages that are marked as not deletable. So if we can't delete this page, then we will just hide it instead. Okay, that seems to have worked this time. If you can't delete a page, remember that you can always go to the 3 dots and hide it from menu, and that way the page will still exist, but it won't be a page that you can access up here. Now I have my work page, which is blank. I have all my other pages here, and I have an about page. My work page is set as my home page. If yours isn't, you want to make sure it is set as your home page, whatever your home page is called, so that this page is the default page that your website loads the first time someone goes to it. Now you'll see up here in the menu that all of my pages, including my photo pages, are all just here in the same place. This isn't what I want, so we're going to take our time in Site Pages and Menu here to set up our menu. In this case, I think I want the individual photo pages to be underneath the work page, the home page, so that if I were to take my mouse and put it over the work page, they would pop up as options underneath it. To do that, in Pages and Menu, I'm going to take the Badalona God Rays, that's one of my photo pages. I'm going to hit the 3 dots, and I'm going to make it a sub page down here, sub page. And now you'll see it is listed underneath the work page. I can move this around. I can make it a sub page of something else too if I wanted. But I want it to be a sub page of the work page. So I'm going to make that be a sub page. I'm going to do the same for the rest of these and make you a sub page, etc., etc. We're going to do this for all of the pages here. Make that a sub page. See if we can convince this. There we go. Make that a sub page. You'll see I made it a sub page with the wrong one. But if I shift it up, it's now a sub page there. Sometimes you can also drag these and you'll see it's made that one a sub page. As long as it shows the line, then you know you've dragged it to the right place. So now my menu has a work page with all of these options underneath it and an about page, which I think is what I want. So if I go over here and hit publish, I can go back to this example of my website, refresh, and see how it appears. Let's go to the home page. That name is wrong. I'll need to change that. So the work page is currently empty. That's right. But if I go and I put my mouse over it, you'll see each of these individual pages popped up. Looks pretty good. And then, of course, I have an about page, which I haven't started editing yet. So that's good. Our menu is taken care of. At this point, I want to edit and make sure my footer and my header looks good. I already did the header or the footer down here. Footer looks pretty good. The header, I need to clearly change this name. So I'm going to make this Mr. Craig's Photography or Portfolio. Portfolio. Good. And then I could replace this image with an image of me if I wanted to. Remember, any image you put online is available to anyone, anywhere. So be considerate of what you're putting online. In this case, I'm going to leave this as a graphic for now. I may change it at a later point. But this header now looks a little bit better. And you'll notice that it updates on all of our pages. So here, if I went to like graveyard shift, right, you'll see it says the old one. If I refresh, it says Mr. Craig's Portfolio. And if I go to any of the others, it will also say the portfolio, right? All the different options, it stays the same up here. That is the point of the header and the footer, is to stay the same. Okay. Last thing to do is on the home page is to design how I want to be able to click on those images. So let's go up here to our page selector and go to our home page, which for me is called work. And now this is still an empty section. There's a couple of options for what you could do here. I'm going to show you both of them. If you only have 4 images, it might be easier to go in here to image and just choose the images themselves and put them in manually. So for example, I could put in this Fruit Loop macro photo that I have, right? Make that a certain size. I could put all 4 of my images in here, and then I could change the settings of this image so that a specific link opens when you click on it. It says a link opens. If yours said something else, you could switch this to a link opens. And then you could choose a link and make it go to a page on your website. There's a lot of other options for what you could link to, but this is the one we want, a page on your website. And then I would select the Fruit Loop macro page. Now you would see, how does it open? Opens in the current window. So instead of opening a new window, it'll go there on the same page, which is what we want. And we'll hit done. Again, I don't really want a tooltip like before. We're going to remove that. Close out of the image. Remember, there's lots of other options you could do. If you go to design, you can add frames, right? If you go to animations, you could add a pop-in so that when the page loads, it does something to show up. So like I kind of like that blur one, looks cool. You could customize the length of it. You could also add a mouse effect so that when your mouse goes over it, it does a certain animation. There's some other options here you can look through. I'm going to publish this so we can see what happens. I'm going to go here, refresh, and now we're going to go back to our home page, our work page. It fades in, and if I click on the image, it goes to that page correctly. So that was really good. I like that. If I only have 4 images, maybe that's something I want to do. In my case, I have quite a bit more than that, so I'm going to do the other method, which I'll show you here. So I'm going to go and delete this, and we're going to add a different element. And the element we want to add is a pro gallery down here. I think the one I want is this basic grid, although the masonry one might be good too. But I'm going to go for the basic grid. Okay, you'll see it loaded all the pre-existing images, which we're not going to use. And there are some settings we want to change here. I can change the media, which I'll do in a moment. But first I want to set up the layout. Here I could also change it to masonry, so I might experiment with that. But what I want to do in customize layout is to set, you see how these images are cropped in? They're all square. I want to set them to fit. So it shows the whole image. I want it to automatically decide how many items based on the size of the screen, maybe. We'll see. Let's leave it on set items per row for now, and I'll set it to 3 items. This spacing is too small. I want this bigger, so it feels like, yeah, something more like that. I also think that this is where we're going to use, for the first time, this stretch icon. The stretch icon will make it fit the size of the page fully. So it's going to stretch all the way from one side to the other. You see that? And then I think I want to bring the margin up a little bit so it's not touching the edges. Something like there. And now, yeah, something like that. I think these images are a little too big, so we're going to go back to the layout options. And I'm going to set the spacing to be even higher. And now it's just experimenting with these numbers until I have something I'm happy with, which will probably be something like that. So this should automatically, the stretch option, should automatically size it to fit into any size page, rather than the standardized sizes we've been using before. So if I go now and view my site, you'll see here that looks pretty decent. It takes care of the fact that some of these are different shapes and it looks okay. And if I resize it, you'll see it updates, fixes itself to match in a way that makes sense, which I like. So now there's some other layout options in here which I can mess around with. As far as design goes, for example, right now nothing happens when I put my mouse over it. But I am going to want, I think, for there to be, let's see what happens. Okay, so it does go gray when I put my mouse over it, but there's also this little heart icon to like the photo, which I don't want. So, let's see. Actually, I think all of this is fine. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yep, that's all fine too. So it's probably up here in here. When clicking on an item, these are the settings we need to change. I want to change this to open a link. And now it says to add links to your gallery, you need to manage the media. We need to do that anyway to change our photos, so we'll do that all at the same time. Down here, I don't want to show a heart icon, so that should get rid of that. Okay, the other thing we need to do is to manage media up here. So main, manage media, and that will let me go in and select the individual images that I want. So for example, I'm not going to want any of these. So I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to delete all of these. And now I'm going to add the other media that I have. So I'm going to go to images, and I'm going to select the individual images that I want. In this case, I want to make sure to only click the edited photos and not the originals. So for example, I'll add this one, and then we'll use the command button, hold down command to let you select more than one. So there's the second one, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think my other ones are in a separate folder, so I'll add those in a moment. And then I'm going to add those last few, which I accidentally saved in here. We'll add these two. Add to page. Good. So here's all 8 of my photos. Apparently I have 8 pages. When I click on one, you'll see there's an option here to add titles, descriptions, alternative text, and links. In this case, we definitely want a title based off what our photo actually is called. So for example, we know this one, right? I called Fruit Loop Macro. And then the link I want to be to one of my pages. So instead of typing a link here, I'm going to click on this link button on the side. And just like before, I'm going to choose a page, Fruit Loop Macro. All right, you can see all my pages here. Done. So that's now set up as a link. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these very quick, and I'll probably speed that up. Okay, so now I think all my images are in here. They looked pretty good. All the titles and the links are set up correctly. So hitting done, you'll see that it automatically updated with my images. And here they are. So I could definitely still do some adjustments on how exactly I want this to look. Maybe rearrange the photos into a specific order. You guys should look at that. But for now, I just want to hit publish and then go to the website and update it and see how it looks. Pretty good. Again, I could probably rearrange these and make it a little nicer. It also looks like if I added some more vertical ones and mixed them in, that would look nice too. So maybe that's something to look at in the future. But right now, if I mouse over, you'll see it darkens or lightens a little. And then it's clickable. And if I click on it, it goes to that page, which is pretty cool. So that's all working. I'm going to go back to my editor because I noticed something. In settings here, there's an option to add text so that the title will show up on top, which is what we want. So I think that's going to be in design here. We were in the overlay section. There's quite a few other sections here. So like texts, I think it should display the title. And we should position it on the image is nice. Appears when hovering. And we want to probably align this to the middle and center it. So center on both of these. We can change the styling here, and we could change the text color. In this case, it might actually be nice to bold these. And this font is maybe not the right font. That's a little closer to what I want, I think. Nice and big, nice and visible. And it might actually be good if we go back to design here, to the overlay, we can adjust. Yeah, so maybe a little more overlay would be good so you can see the text better. Remember, it'll only do that when you're hovering. So if we go back, we can look at these others. You could add like a custom button to go somewhere too if you wanted. You see how that works? There's a click here. But in this case, just clicking on the image is probably the better way to do it. There's some other options too. So like when I go to hover, the background image you could set to zoom in a little bit or to blur a little bit. So if I click zoom in, you'll see they all did a little zoom. It's hard to see here. If I publish it and go to the page, refresh, you see that as I mouse over. Oh, it didn't refresh. Let's try that again. It does a little zoom. You see that? Little zoom and a zoom back out. I think in my case, I actually probably prefer the blur, so that's what I'm going to set it to. So go back. There's also scroll animations, so you could set it so they only appear as you scroll down. As you scroll down, they might fade in or slide up. So now I think it's easier to see with the fade in. That should work. We'll have to see later when we test it. All right, and I think that's my home page completely set up. So I'm going to close out of this. Looks pretty solid. The only thing left to do is to edit the about page. If you don't have an about page, that's okay. But I recommend it. So in this case, I don't really want contact information here, so I'm definitely going to delete this. We're going to bring this up a ways. That's reasonable. And then I'll probably type in something about me here. And maybe I'll put a picture of me. Maybe I'll get rid of this and just replace it with something fun or generic or representative of me without actually putting a photo of me up on my webpage. Yeah, but I think that with that, your website should be essentially finished. Once you're done, you will need to turn it in. And to do that, you're going to want to go to your website here. Remember, if you don't have this, you can always go to Publish here and click View Site. And then you're going to want to make sure you're on your home page, whatever your home page is. And then this is the link that you're going to submit to me. So submit this. Make sure all the steps in the Google assignment are done. And then you are good. And your website is done. Thank you for watching these tutorials. And I hope that they helped you build a nice website that you are happy with.